Hello, and welcome to the John Ark Show. Today's episode is called The Beverly Hills Burglary Invasion. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, comment, and follow us. We're going to have a lot of great celebrity interviews coming up, so I want you to click on that notification bell so you can get notified every time we upload a new episode. I'd also like to tell you about a service called HollywoodIsCalling.com. It allows you to purchase live phone calls from your favorite celebrities. So check it out, HollywoodIsCalling.com. Now, let's get started. The city of Beverly Hills used to be the real estate jewel of the American image of prosperity. It was the place everybody dreamed of moving to and living in. Now it's under siege with wave after wave of criminals, burglars, robbers, all invading the city during the day, during the evening, on the weekends, during holidays. They are shooting people in restaurants, and they're doing so many home invasions, or should I call them mansion invasions, that their giant fences, tall hedges, and enormous steel gates are having almost no effect and offering very little deterrence to these criminals. Just 2 days ago at 12 noon, a criminal walked into one of the most popular and crowded restaurants in downtown Beverly Hills and stole a $500,000 watch off a customer at gunpoint. And then when another customer got in the way, they just shot him right there and then in the hospital, in the restaurant. There are now more shootings, robberies, and store closures going on in Beverly Hills than ever before. It used to be that when you drove through Beverly Hills and you saw a film crew, that you just assumed they were filming a movie. That's not the case anymore. More often than not, now when you see a film crew in Beverly Hills, it's more likely that it's a TV news crew filming a major crime scene that's just occurred. What's interesting about the crime scene filmings is how common they're becoming. The same goes for the store closures. We estimate that at least 1 out of 5 stores in Beverly Hills will soon be closed, given the way the crime is skyrocketing. Here's another problem with Beverly Hills. The city has imposed these draconian restrictions that are forcing severe limits on the number of customers you can admit to your stores or the amount of business that you can do. And this is reducing the amount of sales that store owners can generate. On top of that, if one of your employees catches the virus and gets sick and stays home, then you are legally obligated to notify all your other employees, and you have to give the sick ones paid sick time while they're at home. That means that not only might you have to close your store, but you have to keep paying your employees, and a lot of small business people just can't afford that. That's why there are so many closed stores in Beverly Hills and throughout the rest of Los Angeles and the state of California. Add to that the fact that in some areas, the police will not send officers if you call 911 because thieves are stealing less than $900 from your store. The criminals, they just walk into your store and they simply start reading price tags on the shelves, and then they add everything up. And when the total comes up to just below $900, they just walk out with it. In the past, when you drove through Rodeo Drive, you'd see a lot of customers and tourists walking around, even a few celebrities here and there. That's not the case anymore, as everyone has become very leery and paranoid of doing so, because getting seen shopping in Beverly Hills is a great way to get targeted by the criminals looking to rob you. Kylie Jenner just bought a $36 million mansion in Beverly Hills, and shortly after she purchased it, there was a party just down the street, not too far from her house. 3 people were shot at that party. One of them was killed. The problem with conventional security like high fences, high gates, tall hedges, and surveillance camera is that they're just not working anymore. The professional burglars, home invaders, gangbangers, and thieves oftentimes don't even come in from the street, but they come in over the hills and invade the homes from the back entrances. Or they're cutting through the hedges, or they're climbing the gates or the security walls. Here's another major problem as of late. It used to be that you could easily spot criminals who are lurking about on the streets and up to no good, but that has become almost impossible as of lately because there are so many homeless, so many drug addicts, and so many criminals who have set up tents right on people's front lawns and just been living in front of their $20 million mansions, that it's very, very difficult to find that one person who decides to break into your house because there are just so many people on the streets who don't belong there. They literally set up on your front lawn or on your driveway and give you the finger or throw syringes at you whenever you ask them to leave. With so many homeless drug addicts milling about, it's become very difficult to pick out potential criminals because everybody is a stranger. So, what effect is that having on people? Well, it's causing a number of things to happen. First of all, residents are moving out to Texas, Tennessee, and Florida in record numbers. Sylvester Stallone just put his mansion in Beverly Park up for sale for $110 million, and he has already relocated to Palm Beach, Florida, where he bought a lakefront compound for $35 million, and he is just loving it. It's also changing the behavior of the residents of the city. A lot of people who owned exotic or expensive cars in Beverly Hills are now leaving them at home, and instead they're driving Toyotas or other less expensive and less ostentatious cars so as to attract less criminal attention. People are also hosting far fewer parties because they know a great way to attract the wrong element is to have a big party at your house, which will just cause the criminal vampires to gather and strike. All this criminal behavior is also causing an increase in the real estate exodus out of the city of Beverly Hills and out of the state of California. What they're doing is they're trying to leave as fast as they can before the real estate market completely collapses and freezes, just like it has in New York already. You know, people are already seeing this real estate freeze in New York, in the city and the state, and it's becoming extremely difficult to sell your home or apartment now when everybody is moving out of the Big Apple. The problem is not just selling your home, but the problem is finding a moving truck or a service. Many trucks or moving services are so backlogged that they need to be booked and scheduled months in advance because the demand for their services is so huge. If that's not bad enough, then check this out. You can now shoot heroin into your body in broad daylight, and the police won't even stop and ask you a question. You can set up a homeless tent and go to the bathroom on the sidewalk and not get arrested. You can walk into many stores in California and just steal just below $900 of their property or inventory, and the police won't even come if you call 911 because the first thing they ask is, have they stolen at least $900 of property? And if you say no, they're not coming. So all these things are perfectly acceptable to law enforcement in California now. However, if you're a soccer mom driving her kids to school and you drive 5 miles over the speed limit, you will be shocked at the number of police cars who are more than eager to pull you over and write you hundreds of dollars in tickets and traffic fines simply because you went slightly over the limit. And it's getting worse. We now have prosecutors and attorney generals in California who are not only refusing to prosecute criminals, but they're doing everything they can to limit or reduce the authority of the police to fight crime. Because of this, you now have Beverly Hills and Santa Monica residents, business owners, and store owners who are hiring their own armed security guards. During the recent riots in Los Angeles, these guards could be seen standing in front of stores with assault rifles, and shockingly, those stores were not attacked or vandalized. It's like magic. By the way, you know that restaurant I told you about a few minutes ago in Beverly Hills, where they had the shooting and the theft of the $500,000 watch? Well, they've now hired armed security. I'm guessing they're not going to come in there and try and rob anybody at this point. So, what do we forecast is going to happen going forward? We predict that the crime in California and many other states will continue to skyrocket, regardless of whether the economy improves. There are an awful lot of jobless people out there, and they just can't survive on unemployment anymore. A lot of businesses have been permanently put out of business. They're bankrupt. A lot of families who cannot feed themselves. Already in Los Angeles, some of the major gangs that used to make most of their money selling drugs are now seeing that they can make a fortune simply going out and robbing rich and middle class people, which brings me back to that shooting, which just took place a few days ago in Beverly Hills. If you know anything about Beverly Hills, then you know it's a very, very tiny city. It's only about 5 square miles, but it still has its own police department. When you have a city that tiny, that means that the police cars are usually no more than 60 seconds away from a crime scene, which would make it very difficult to escape once you committed a crime, right? Wrong. Because apparently these criminals are either so desperate or they've got their methodology down to such a science that they believe they can escape the police whenever they commit a crime. And if they're not afraid of the actual police, how afraid do you think they're going to be of the private security that the residents or stores have? I'm guessing that they'll be even less afraid of them. I believe that as we see more and more waves of criminals invading Beverly Hills and some of the other middle-class cities in Los Angeles and California, then what we saw in John Carpenter's movie Escape from Los Angeles, starring Kurt Russell, is going to pale in comparison to what we're going to see in California. I want to thank our viewers for watching and tell you that we're going to have more great celebrity interviews coming up and more breaking news stories. So I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and click on to the notification bell so you can get notified every time we post a new story. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.